What is going on, everybody? Pretender here, back with another Honkai Star guide. Today I'm here with the full build guide for the standard 5-star character Yanqing. Unfortunately, nowadays Yanqing has become more of a meme build, but under the right circumstances he can perform decently well. And so today I'm going to be taking you over his kit and Eidolons, best Lightcones, best Relic sets, and Planar Ornaments, and then the Mainstat and Substat recommendations. That's all I want to say. If you guys find this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star content. If you know anyone that potentially wants to build Yanqing, send them this video as it could help them. Be sure to check the description for joining the Discord and my new channel that I have made, and let's get straight into the video. So Yanqing is a ice character following the path of Hunt. His basic attack deals ice damage equal to 100% of Yanqing's attack to a single enemy. His skill deals ice damage equal to 220% of Yanqing's attack to a single enemy and activates Soul Steel Sync for 1 turn. His ultimate increases Yanqing's crit rate by 60%. When Soul Steel Sync is active, increases Yanqing's crit damage by an extra 50%. This buff lasts for 1 turn. Afterwards, deals ice damage equal to 350% of Yanqing's attack to a single enemy. For Yanqing's talent, when Soul Steel Sync is active, Yanqing is less likely to be attacked by enemies. Yanqing's crit rate increases by 20% and Yanqing's crit damage increases by 30%. After Yanqing attacks an enemy, there is a 60% fixed chance to launch a follow-up attack dealing ice damage equal to 50% of Yanqing's attack to the enemy, which has a 65% base chance to freeze the enemy for 1 turn. The frozen target cannot take action and receives ice additional damage equal to 50% of Yanqing's attack at the beginning of each turn. When Yanqing receives damage, the Soul Steel Sync effect will disappear. For his technique, at the start of the next battle, Yanqing deals 30% more damage for 2 turns to enemies whose current HP percentage is 50% or higher. For his bonus traces, his A2, after Yanqing attacks, deals ice additional damage equal to 30% of Yanqing's attack to enemies with ice weakness. His A4 increases his effect res by 20% when Soul Steel Sync is active, and his A6 increases his speed by 10% for 2 turns when a crit hit is triggered. Taking a look at his Eidolons, his E1, when Yanqing attacks a frozen enemy, he deals ice additional damage equal to 60% of his attack. E2, when Soul Steel Sync is active, energy regeneration rate increases by an extra 10%. E4, when the current HP is 80% or higher, this unit's ice res pen increases by 12%. And his E6, if the buffs from Soul Steel Sync or the ultimate are in effect when an enemy is defeated, the duration of these buffs are extended by 1 turn. For the best Lightcones for Yanqing, a fantastic option is Zele's signature Lightcone, as it does give you an 18% increase to crit rate, and while the wearer is in battle, for every 10 speed that exceeds 100, increases damage dealt by the basic attack and skill by 6%, and at the same time increases the crit damage from the ultimate by 12% and stacks up to 6 times. So as this gives you a lot of crit rate, this Lightcone practically makes it to where you really do not have to worry about crit rate, as we did see in his kit. Yanqing already provides himself with a lot of crit rate for his ultimate especially, but it is still nice to get some more crit rate so you can have the skill do some more damage, because the skill can also deal some pretty solid damage as well. You don't want to purely focus on the ultimate. While the ultimate is his main source of damage, you still want to have a nice crit rate ratio for your skill. So this Lightcone makes it really easy to get those requirements, as he gives himself 20% from the talent and then gives you 60% when you're using the ultimate. With this, you have practically almost a guaranteed crit. And on top of that, the effects are really good. The basic attack you ignore, since you don't really basic attack with him, you spam skill. It increases skill damage and can stack up to 6 times with the ultimate damage for the crit damage, meaning you'd have to build them with up to 160 speed. This is achievable by having a lot of speed built on him, and also achievable by doing something like an E2 Bronia build. But even if you're not able to make the full 160 speed, so let's say you get to maybe 130 or 140 or maybe even 150, that's still fine. The Lightcone is still very good. Overall, fantastic option for his damage. Another great one is Dr. Ratio's signature Lightcone, which gives a 20% increase to crit damage. For every debuff on the enemy target, the wearer's crit damage dealt against this target additionally increases by 8%, stacking up to 3 times. When using ultimate to attack an enemy target, the wearer receives the Disputation effect, which increases damage dealt by 36% and allows their follow-up attacks to ignore 24% of the target's defense for 2 turns. This Lightcone will need you to run another debuffer on the team to help Yanqing get the full effect of this Lightcone, as it will give crit damage dealt onto that enemy that has more debuffs, and you want at least 3 debuffs on him. Yanqing can only inflict the freeze, so you need someone else such as a defense shredder, someone like Payla or Silverwolf. Payla is a fantastic pairing, since if you have her E4, she's a 4-star, it's pretty common to have, especially since she's been in the game for a while. If you have the E4, you're lowering their ice res, and on top of that, the ultimate gives the defense shred, which she's good for. So just something like that. But again, other characters work. Like, you could take any sort of debuffer that will help you gain the stacks, so you can make use of the full effect of this Lightcone, giving you a lot of crit damage. And on top of that, when you do use your ultimate, you get the increase of damage dealt, and you also get a 24% ignoring defense to that target that you hit with a follow-up attack. His follow-up attack isn't a big source of damage. It doesn't do too much damage, but thanks to this Lightcone, it can actually dish out some pretty decent damage as well, making this a fantastic option you can use. Another great option Lightcone is Feixiao signature Lightcone, which gives you a 15% increase to crit rate, and when the wearer launches an attack, it gains 1 stack of Lumen Flux, stacking up to 2 times, and each Lumen Flux stack enables the ultimate damage dealt to ignore 27% of the target's defense, and when the wearer's turn ends, you have a stack removed of Lumen Flux. So once again, a really nice 15% increase to crit rate, so that doesn't mean you will need to get too many crit rate rolls on your actual relics. And as I said, his skill does do some pretty good damage, but this is going to completely emphasize on his ultimate damage, which is his main source of damage, and if you want the main source of damage coming from that only, and you don't really care about having the skill and the follow-up attack to do a bit of overall damage to add up to more, then this Lightcone is fantastic, as it can give him up to a 54% defense ignore when using his ultimate, which is extremely powerful, which will make his ult hit significantly harder, making this another great option. Another option you can use is the 4-star Lightcone Swordplay, where each time the wearer hits the same target, damage dealt to that target increases by 8%, stacking up to 5 times, and is dispelled when you change targets. So if you are focusing on the same target for a while, which with Yanqing you most likely will, you can constantly stack up this Lightcone, getting up to easy 5 stacks, and at max refinement it is 16%. Stacking up to 5 times, once you do have it fully stacked, it becomes extremely powerful, making this a great 4-star option you can use. Another option you can use is the free-to-play Herda Shop Lightcone, which gives you an 8% increase to crit rate and increases crit rate further against enemies that have 50% or less HP by an extra 8%, and when you do defeat an enemy, you gain a 20% attack increase for 2 turns. And at S5 you get a 16% base increase to crit rate and an additional 16% when you do attack the enemies that have 50% or less HP, and when you do defeat an enemy you get a 40% attack increase. So when you are attacking an enemy that has less than 50% HP, this practically will negate any single crit roll you do need, since you will have a base 32 with this, plus the 5 that every character has at base, so your base crit rate will be 37, with the extra talent that will be over 50, and then the ultimate is practically a guaranteed crit. So if you are focusing on his ultimate damage, you won't need to really forego any crit rate rolls. If you're mainly wanting his skill and follow-up attack to crit more, then getting some rolls still will be helpful, but you still won't need nearly as much. But do know it is easy to overcap amount the crit you need with this Lightcone, and when you do defeat an enemy, so killing someone on the side, you get a really nice 40% attack increase, making this a great option as well. Another option you can use is the free-to-play Lightcone Final Victor, which increases the res attack by 12%. When the wearer lands a crit hit on an enemy, you gain a stack of Good Fortune, stacking up to 4 times, and each Good Fortune stack increases crit damage by 8% and is removed at the end of the wearer's turn. So nice little attack percent you can get, and also a nice amount of crit damage you can get, and since Yanqing hits a bunch of times, having a bunch of crit hits, it's easy to stack this up, and at S5 you get a 20% attack increase, and Good Fortune crit damage increases by 12% for each stack. Good option you can use overall, nice little attack increase and crit damage increase that can be pretty good when it is stacked up to at least around 2 to 3. Since at 2 at S5 you get a 24% crit damage increase, which is nice, at 3 it's 36, and then at 4 it's 48, which is really good, making this a fantastic free-to-play option you can use as well. Another option you can use is River Flows in Spring, which after entering battle you gain an 8% speed increase and a 12% damage increase. Once you do take damage, the effect will disappear, and the effect will resume at the end of the wearer's next turn, and at S5 it's a 12% speed increase and a 24% damage increase. So pretty much ties into his actual kit, since with Soul Steel Sync, when it is active you want to make sure you do not take damage, so you always run a shielder with him, and so this practically doubles down on that, so you don't want to get hit so you don't lose Soul Steel Sync already, and now you don't want to get hit so you do not lose the 12% speed and the 24% damage increase you get from the Lightcone. So playing him with the shielder and making sure he doesn't get hit, if you don't get hit, this Lightcone becomes a really good option you can use as well. Taking a look at the best relic sets for Yanqing, a fantastic option is the new Scholar set, which the 2-piece increases crit rate by 8%, and the 4-piece increases damage dealt by skill and ultimate by 20%. After using ultimate, additionally increases the damage dealt by the next skill by 25%. So if you are focusing on a purely ult damage build, then you do not want to use this relic set, but if you're looking to do a more overall damage, where the damage adds up from skill and ultimate and a bit of the follow-up attack, which in my opinion you definitely should, then this becomes a really good option, since it gives you some more crit rate, so that makes even less rolls you will need on your relics. And on top of that, you get a nice increase to skill and ult, and then once you do use the ultimate, your next skill hit that much harder. And once again, as I mentioned, his skill can hit pretty hard, so this will further amplify the damage, making this a great option you can use. Another great option is actually the debuff set, which the 2-piece gives you a 12% damage dealt increase to enemies with debuffs, and the 4-piece increases crit rate by 4%, and the wearer deals 8%/12% increased crit damage to enemies with at least 2/3 debuffs. After the wearer inflicts a debuff on enemy targets, the aforementioned effects increase by 100% for a turn. With this relic set, you will need to run him alongside another character that can debuff, so making sure on your team you're able to have up to 3 debuffs on the enemy. And Yanqing is actually going to be able to trigger the aforementioned effects as he's able to freeze the enemy. So you have to freeze the enemy in order to get the actual full set and get the actual aforementioned effects increase. So if you take another debuff from the team that can help him get the full 3 debuffs on and then proc the freeze to get the aforementioned effects increase, then this relic set practically becomes the best one you can use. Another great option is the Wind Soaring set, which the 2-piece gives you a 12% attack increase, and the 4-piece increases the wearer's crit rate by 6%. After the wearer uses a follow-up attack, increases damage up by the ultimate by 36% for 1 turn. This one is more tailored towards the people that want to have the full ultimate damage and have the main damage come from the ultimate. 2-piece just a nice 12% attack increase for your overall damage. 4-piece giving you 6% crit rate, so you have to focus less on the rolls again. And mainly when you do trigger his 65% base chance to have the follow-up attack go, if you do trigger that, you get the 36% damage dealt increased by the ultimate, making his ultimate hit that much harder. So if you want to focus on him, mainly do the damage off the ultimate, then this is one of the best ones you can use for that. And then another option you can use is the 4-piece of the ice set. 2-piece increases ice damage by 10%, and the 4-piece, after the wearer uses their ultimate, their crit damage increases by 25% for 2 turns. So 2-piece, as he is an ice character, he's able to benefit off that. 4-piece is just a nice crit damage buff you do get after using your ultimate. Not really much to talk about there. Again, the crit damage is going to be really nice since he wants to get as much crit damage as you can to deal more damage, and the 2-piece again affects all sources of his damage as he does deal ice damage. So his skill, basic attack, even ultimate, follow-up attack, everything is going to be benefiting from the 2-piece as well, making this another good option you can use. And then past that, it is practically just combining 2-pieces. So taking 2-piece of any of the sets and combining them together. So 2-piece of the Scar set for the crit rate, it's nice, and then combining that with 2-piece of one of the attack percents, which doesn't just apply to Wind Soaring. If you want 2-piece attack, you can do 2-piece Wind Soaring, 2-piece of the Dot set, 2-piece of Musketeers. Practically, again, just any set I mentioned and doing 2-piece. You mostly want to focus on a 4-piece set though. 4-piece Scholar for the best damage overall, since you get the damage for skill and ultimate and then further on the skill. If you want to focus purely on the ultimate, then the Wind Soaring set is going to be your go-to. If you want the best output but you will need a debuff requirement, then the debuff set is going to be your go-to. And if you don't have any of those and you just have ice pieces laying around, then you can use 4-piece of the ice set. And if you have no 4-piece options for that, but you have a few pieces of each laying around, you can combine one of the 2 pieces of the sets that I mentioned. For the best Planar ornaments, overall the best one you are going to be able to do is the Glamout set, which gives you a 12% attack increase, and when you do have speed that is equal to or higher than 135/160, the wearer deals 12%/18% more damage. This is really good since the attack increase is going to be nice. 135 speed you'll practically always want to have and will have on Yanqing, so that's a free 12% damage increase. And in the cases you are able to hit 160 speed, which is very possible with Yanqing, you're going to be getting the 18% damage increase, and at 135 speed it's still one of his, if not the best set still, and at 160 speed it becomes the best set you can use on him, making this overall the best option you can use. And then the next 2 actually do depend on what you want to do. If you want his main damage to come from his skill, then Rulin Arena isn't a bad option, as it gives you an 8% crit rate increase, and when you do have 70% or higher crit rate, damage up by basic and skill increases by 20%. I personally do not recommend this over the other ones I'm going to mention, but if you really want him to just focus on doing skill damage, then you can use this. Just do note, you will need to have 50% base crit rate because he will give himself 20%, and so you need to be over 70, so in battle you need to at least have 70, and that's gonna be a big overkill on the amount of crit rate you need on Yanqing in general, and it will mainly just increase your skill damage, so it's not gonna be overall. And then once again, you don't really use the basic attack, so overall I don't recommend this, but if you want to use this skill, it's a option you can use, that's why I'm mentioning it. And similar reasons to Rulin Arena, it's the same thing with Inner Solsada if you want to focus on mainly his ultimate, but this one actually does apply to his follow-up attack and also has a less crit rate amount that you do need required. That's why this one is actually one that I wouldn't say is a bad option, as it does give you an 8% increase in crit rate, and when you have 50% or higher crit rate, damage dealt by the wearer's ultimate and follow-up attack increases by 15%. So as I just said, 50% is less than the 70% you need, so you won't need as much, and then it'll be increasing the ultimate damage, which once again is his main source, but you still want to have something that helps with skill damage and follow-up damage, but this one also helps with follow-up, so overall this is definitely the better option than Rulin Arena and is a lot easier to use. And then the only other option is Space Sealing Station, which honestly I would recommend using this compared to the other 2 I just mentioned, as it does give you a 12% attack increase, and once you have 120 speed or higher you get an additional 12% attack increase, so just a nice 24% increase to attack. Nothing too crazy, but still a nice buff. Once again, I 100% recommend getting Glamoth first. That is going to easily be his best one. If you want to focus on mainly his skill, then Rulin Arena, but once again I personally do not recommend this. Salsado for focusing on his ultimate and a bit of his follow-up attack, but still not too crazy. And then the other option is Space Sealing Station, which honestly I would recommend using this over Rudolin Arena or Inner Sasada. Might not be the greatest when you are focusing, so it's not going to do as much for the skill if you are using Rudolin Arena. Not going to do as much for the ultimate follow-up attack as if you're using Sasada, but it is a nice overall increase. But once again, I just 100% recommend just getting Glamoth and running that on him, as it's going to be his best one. For the main sets on the relics, for the body, you want to have crit damage, for the feet, you want speed, for the orb, you want ice damage, and for the link up, you want attack percent. The substats, mainly you want to focus on just getting as much crit damage as you can, so your general DPS stuff, so crit damage, speed, make sure you focus on speed to get to at least 134, 135 if you're using the Glamoth, and as much as you can if you're using something like Zayle's Lightcone or you want to hit 160 speed with the Glamoth effect or Zayle's Lightcone again. Speed is going to be very important, and then once again, just crit damage, attack percent. Do not neglect your crit rate rolls, because while yes, he gives himself a lot, you still want to get some, because if you're focusing on the ultimate, then you won't need as much as someone that wants to focus on skill, follow-up attack. If you want a more overall built Yanqing, which is what I personally recommend, then getting around 20 to 30% crit rate is going to be important. If you're running Sasada, you want to have at least 30%. If you're running Rudolin Arena, then you'd probably want around 50. But for a overall build, so let's say you're running something like the Scholar set, and you're also running Glamoth, then just getting around the 20 to 30 mark is going to be nice. And so that's practically what I want to say. Just do not neglect your crit rate. So once again, first you want to focus on mainly just getting more crit damage and also focusing on your speed to get at least 135. I say 134, but 135 if you're mainly using Glamoth, which you will. And then you'd focus on getting more if you're using Zayle's Lightcone, or you want to get closer to 160 for the Glamoth effect. And then attack percent, and then also do not neglect crit rate rolls. And yep, that is the full build guide for Yanqing. Once again, if you guys found this video helpful, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this. And yep, once again, hope you guys found the video helpful. Peace out.